Hey, did you know in your brain right now, there are systems in place. There are mechanisms for you to be able to deal with crisis. It is called survivor mode. From the beginning of time, creatures have always had to deal with life and death situations. So built into our nervous system are all these experiences. And we all have ways to help ourselves get through really the most crazy of times. And this is definitely one of those crazy times. And it's, for me, kind of a weird conversation to have with you, kind of a different conversation to have with you, because for the last 50 years, mental health, all of us in mental health, have really been focusing on helping you feel your feelings, helping you express your feelings, helping you find and thrive in your life, get out of survivor mode, and really thrive in your life. And the way we've really been pushing, helping people to have this abundant, full life is by helping them feel their feelings and emotions. Well, in a crisis, feelings and emotions can be overwhelming. They can be too much. And actually, what we need to learn to do is shut down feelings and emotions. And that seems kind of counterintuitive to what we've been trying to do, but it actually makes a much better definition for mental health. Instead of seeing mental health as just expressing feelings, I think mental health really is about emotional regulation, or just regulating ourselves in general, emotionally, mentally, physically. It's our ability to regulate, which it means turning on and turning off our feelings or our thoughts creates good mental health. Now, if that sounds like something you could sure benefit from right now, then I want you to stick around and check out what we got to say. Hi, I'm Brett, your favorite shrink. I'm a licensed therapist and the executive director for the Gathering of Good People. The Gathering is a nonprofit, and what we're dedicated to is helping serve you, helping you to grow, really. We want to help you grow emotionally, relationally, and spiritually. And so we started this new series called Anxious. Now, before I begin, I want to share a few phrases with you. See if you've ever heard these phrases. Oh, he's all talk, no action. Actions speak louder than words. The paralysis of analysis. Have you ever heard those kind of phrases? Those colloquialisms, I think I'm using the phrase right. If I'm not using the word colloquialism right, make a comment below, please. But those colloquialisms speak to a way of thinking, a pattern of thinking that most of the time we see is not useful. It's a pattern of thinking that causes people to get stuck in their heads and they're unable to take action or to move. Well, in a normal situation, that kind of thinking pattern is not so useful, right? But what I want to suggest in today's kind of sharing, today's talk, is I want to share an idea that maybe, though, in a crisis, that's exactly what we need. We need to learn to be able to get out of what I call the emotional mind that is driving so much of us, and to actually get back up into our thinking brain, where we can disconnect a little bit from all of this high energy that keeps driving and pushing us, and put us in a little bit more of a logical point of view. Now, to do that, what I got to do is I got to explain to you how the brain works, because it always comes back to neuroscience. Understanding the brain and how it works is going to give you a way to understand what's going on in your head. And before I even get started, I'm looking down at my brain here. Before I even get started, I got to warn you, I need you to think a little bit differently, because Most of us think of ourselves as having just one brain, but it is true, you have one brain, but in that brain, you have 5 different minds. And each one of those minds function very, very, very different from one another. And in order to create the mental state that we need, to create this crisis mode, to create this survival mode, to be able to get through this, we need to shut off the emotional mind and be able to move back into our higher thinking mind, where we're going to find more logic and more reason. All right, but let me introduce you to your own brain, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we're going to get you out of the emotional mind. So this is my friend, Abby. I call her Abby Normal. And if you've ever seen a brain, you will notice right away that as you look at the brain, it looks like it's divided. It looks like there's this ridge that goes down through the middle of the brain. And it's absolutely true that your brain is split in half, completely split in half. And because of that, you have 2 outer hemispheres. And these 2 outer hemispheres are 2 of the first 2 brains. The first hemisphere, I call him Leo. And the reason why I call him Leo is because he is your left neocortex. And some things that are really interesting about Leo that you have to remember, because this is going to play into what we're going to talk about later on, is Leo is logic. Leo is rational, analytical, linear thinking. And the other thing that's really important about Leo that we're going to need to remember, especially later on, is that over here on the side of Leo, just above your ears, in front and behind your ears, there's 2 areas called the Wernicke and Broca areas. And these 2 areas have to do with verbal processing. Now, what's important about that is that no other part of your brain contains the Wernicke or Broca areas, only your left neocortex. So your left neocortex thinks logically, and how does it think? It thinks in words. It talks. So whenever you hear yourself talking to yourself, you are thinking with your left neocortex. Now, right next to Leo is his identical twin brother, right? The 2 sides of the brain look exactly alike. All these wrinkly kind of gray matter. Well, Rio, although he looks exactly like Leo, Rio is exactly the opposite. Rio is your right neocortex. Rio, okay? And Rio is your creative brain. Rio doesn't think logically. Rio thinks creatively. Rio is the guy, the part of you that can abstract ideas, that can imagine things, that can daydream. And because Rio is more of a dreamer, Rio's language is not words. Because remember, verbal center's over on the left side. Rio relies on the occipital lobe and visualizations. Rio pictures things. Rio's language is imagination, images. Now, as we dig deeper into the brain, as we break the brain open and we begin to take these 2 hemispheres and spread them out a little bit, we look inside and there's an inner structure. Kind of looks, like an egg a little bit, kind of oval shaped. But you can, if you've ever looked inside the brain and seen what's called the limbic system, the limbic system looks vastly different than the twins, Leo or Rio. And that's our 3rd brain. That is our emotional brain. In brain theory, we have what's called the triadic brain model. And the triadic brain talks about the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, and the primate brain. The reptilian brain is the brainstem. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the mammalian brain, the mammal brain, I can think of it as a cat brain or a dog brain. This cat brain thinks and processes differently than the rest of the brain as well, as you can imagine, right? Now, I call this part the emotional mind. I call her Emma, right? Emma, emotions. And Emma generates feelings, emotions. But her language, how she communicates feelings, is through energy. When you feel a feeling, what are you really feeling? You're feeling energy moving through your body. This is Emma. She's generating massive amounts of energy. Now, let me introduce you one more character. Down at the very base, down at the bottom below this oval shape in the center of your brain, there is a collective mass of tissues that goes down into your spinal cord. This is your body mind. The reason why I call it the body mind is because that's pretty much what's in charge of. The brain stem is in charge of things that you don't think about. Heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, all kinds of circulation in your body, even breathing, all of those basic functions that your body is thinking about all the time, but you're not thinking about, is being processed through the body mind, through who I call B. B is so basic and simple. I just give him one letter word, one letter name. He's just B. Now, why these characters are so important is because, as you can see, as you heard in my description going through each one of these, is that each one of them has their own kind of language, as it were. B's language is actions, movements. If you change your body language, if you smile, sit up, take a deep breath, all of those things are going to register in your brainstem. And your brainstem is going to trigger all of those biological, physical responses up into your emotional brain. And if I smile, it helps me actually feel better because the action triggers the brainstem, and the brainstem triggers Emma, which is, again, the energy, the emotional mind. So each part has its own way of talking and way of communicating. Now, let's get back to why this is so important. In a nutshell, we can take this picture of the brain, these four minds that we've talked about so far, and we can divide them into two groups. I think about them as my thinking minds, which are the two twins, Leo and Rio, up on top. They do the thinking, the analysis, the creativity, all that kind of stuff. And then there's the reactive mind, or the reactive brain, which is the brain stem and the emotional mind. Now, why this is important is because thinking brains are good at thinking and they're bad at action. But reactive brains are bad at thinking and good at acting. And so in this crisis moment, what's happening is that our emotional brain, the reactive brain, is reacting to all this news, to all the environments, all the stuff that we're hearing and seeing, all the possible dangers and threats, this kind of out of control space we're in. And the emotional mind wants to react. It wants to do something. It wants to take action, take flight, take flight, do something. But it can't. So all it does is freeze. And it becomes stuck in this flood of emotion. Well, it's really not that useful. What I need to do is I need to move that energy and move the focus from my reactive brain up into my thinking brain. Because in my thinking brain, I can access all the information I need. I can come up and make decisions or make a plan of what needs to happen, but without the feelings to it. Think of a guy who his job is to plan for a corporation's disaster. He makes the disaster plan for the corporation. Well, he can do that job pretty analytically. It's just a simple matter of numbers. I need to purchase 5,000 of these. I need 2,000 of those. Here's step 1. Here's step 2. Here's step 3. And he can pretty much work through all of that pretty analytically. Why? Because he's up in his highest thinking brain. He's not down in the base brain, panicking and flooded with energy, he's being rational and logical. Now, how do we get there? Well, the way we get there is through our words. Words are what access the higher thinking brain. For a long time, we've been doing this process for quite a while. For a long time in therapy, the idea used to be that you come to therapy, you start talking about your feelings. You start talking about your experiences. And as you're talking about it, you notice that when you leave therapy, you feel better. And the basic mentality was that you were releasing energy. You were releasing the feelings and experiences. And that, in some momentary way, is kind of true. But when we look at the brain neurologically, there's actually a little bit different process going on. What's happening when I am sitting in front of somebody talking about my feelings, what happens is I have to take the emotions out of the reactive brain, and I have to take that energy and begin to process it in the higher brain, the thinking brain. And as I'm trying to put words to my feelings, and maybe the therapist is really helping me do that, say, what I'm trying to say, express what I'm trying to express. As I'm doing this, I'm processing that. I am moving the information from the reactive emotional brain up into the higher thinking brain. And now that I've done that and I'm talking about my feelings, I actually am experiencing the memory or the emotions or whatever it is differently, because I'm experiencing it now from a logical point of view, more of a detached point of view. And it creates a little bit of distance away from my emotions. Then what happens is now I take that memory and experience and it goes back into its box. But because I've changed the memory and experience, because I've talked about it and moved it up into a different part of my brain, when it goes back into the box, it's different. I now feel differently about that experience because I was able to cathartic and talk and move the emotions up into my higher thinking brain. And so now when I experience the emotion again and think about it, it feels a little bit better. Well, that's what talking does. It shifts us out of our emotional brain into our logical brain. And it creates that feeling of relief. Well, that's what we need to do here. We're here. We're in this crisis. You're flooded. I'm flooded. We're all feeling so much feeling right now. And we don't know what to do with it. And so we just freeze up. Well, what we need to do with it is we need to start getting it back into words. We need to start talking. Now, I'm going to give you some tools, some specific tools that you can use to do this. They're all obvious ones that you've already heard about and we've already kind of understood, and sometimes we use, but we really, really need to start using them right now. The first one I would suggest is a journal. Journals are super useful. I hate journals, let me be honest about that. I hate journals. I don't like writing. I have dyslexia. Writing sucks for me, but I have to do it. And the reason why I have to do it is because a couple things. One, the writing forces me to take the feelings and translate it into language. I can't just write on my journal, maybe I could try that. But anyway, it forces me to take this raw energy that's in my limbic system and bring it up into my higher thinking brain and put words to it. Sad, scared, overwhelmed, hurt, worried. So that's one thing it starts to do. But the other thing it does, which is really awesome too, is that when I'm writing in my journal, my page always has a top and my page always has a bottom to it. And that's critical because in my brain, in my thinking brain, or my reactive brain, I don't have a beginning and an end. My brain is just flooded and it just loops in the flood. Crap, 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 crap. Well, what if I broke up my journal and I just wrote that? Crap, 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 crap. Well, after like the third time through, I'd be like, okay, can we say something else about this besides crap? And it forces me again to stop looping. And now my thoughts are forced because I'm putting them into words and I'm putting them on a page to have a beginning and to have an end. And it makes me go through a process. Well, thinking processes, again, is left neocortex. That's not emotions. Emotions don't have a process, but the left neocortex does. So again, it's pulling the information into the left neocortex where I can deal with it dispassionately, where I can deal with it unemotionally. The left neocortex, Leo doesn't have any emotions to him. And that's kind of why we use the logical part of our brain, because it's emotionless. It can think about terrible things like the guy planning for disaster for his corporation without any feeling because he's so analytical. So we're using Leo to create this kind of survival mode, to create this mindset of I got to focus on what I got to focus on and just kind of ignore the emotions, as it were. Now, so what are some other ways? Well, talking to people. I know we're under social isolation and social distancing, but you can still call. You can even write and text people. In fact, on our website, thegatheringofgoodpeople.com, we got a forum going. I think we even have some posts that you can make on our Gathering of Good People group page on Facebook. And if you could go there and start just posting your thoughts, posting your feelings, posting what's going on, what's going to happen is that you can have a place to dump and where other people can support you. If you go to the just the websites, just like Facebook or Instagram, and you start dumping, you're going to get all kinds of bad reactions to that. But on our forum, where other people are also venting about their anxiety with the virus and everything else that's going on, you're going to get support and be heard and understood, which is, again, a way to help you deal with those emotions. So talking to people, writing in journals, writing on the forum, expressing that way. I would even say just talking out loud. I found this morning, just feeling lots of energy. You wake up with just lots of energy. I found if I just started talking to myself, just started talking, okay, I'm feeling this energy. I can feel it in my gut. I feel it in my stomach. I know what it's about. It's about all of this feeling of a crisis and whatever. And just blah, 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 just starting to talk out loud. I started to feel better. I started to feel like, okay. Because I started to move into that left neocortex, Leo. One last tip I'm going to give you guys is affirmations. Typically, I'm not a big fan of affirmations because I don't think they're really effective in changing Emma, your emotional mind. But in this moment, in this situation, I don't want to change Emma. I want to get out of Emma. So affirmations are, I think, pretty useful in this kind of a crisis mode because what an affirmation does is it takes a positive thought, a word, a sentence, an idea. It's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And what I do is I begin to jam the brain. See, the brain can only focus on one thing at a time. I know we like to think about multitasking, but it doesn't work. It doesn't happen. We just divide our attention. We become really ineffective. So if I can jam my brain with this affirmation, it's going to be okay. 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 By using that affirmation over and over and over again, I'm keeping in my left neocortex. I'm keeping a thought in my left neocortex that's going to create a positive kind of image for myself. And it's going to keep me out of the emotional mind. Keep me from flooding into my emotions. Now, I know this is all really weird. It's really kind of backwards to what I've been doing my whole career, which is helping people feel and express feelings. But in this crisis mode that we're in the moment, feeling and expressing feelings is not our goal. Getting out of our feelings is. Mental health, good mental health, is learning how to regulate your thoughts and your feelings and your actions. That means being able to turn them on, and being able to feel feelings, but also it means learning how to turn them off. I hope this was useful. Please share some of the ideas that you have, because all of us, I know, have some good ideas on how to keep ourselves up in our thinking brain and out of our emotional mind. Share some of your thoughts and comments. Share some of your experiences with some of the suggestions we've made here. I'd love to hear your remarks and comments. Again, I'm Brett, your favorite shrink, and thanks so much for being a part of the gathering. I'll talk to you soon.